she would tell me to go do theater, and I would say, Mom, I want to go watch theater, a bunch of over dramatic acting to be, all that stuff.
Right.
And she literally forced me to go down to Lachette, and I think they were doing Glengarry Glen Ross, Death of a Salesman, that Chris Bailey had him to direct, and my mind was blown. I was like, oh, it's real acting. Oh, that's kind of cool. So.
Welcome to another episode of Chewing the Fat. I'm your host, Big Rob. Thank you so much for tuning in. Also want to give a special shout out to the folks that have bought me a coffee through the website at chewingthefatbr.com. If you want to support this podcast, you can do the same. But I do want to shout out my supporters at Pink Bike Ralph. Thank you so much. And I enjoy the encouragement that you gave me along with the coffee as well. And also, Travis, thank you so much for the coffee. I'm excited about my guest for this week. He is a film actor. He is a filmmaker. He is, there's a writer, director. There's not much that he can't do. And we have a film festival coming soon that I know he is a part of as well. Please welcome Jaye Starkes to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Did I miss anything?
No. Yeah, it's extremely hyphenated title.
Yes.
So normally I just have to, like social media, I just choose a couple of the top ones or whatever. But yeah, so I try to be a man of many talents.
Well, and you are, and we've known each other for a few years now through theater, through Le Chat Noir and doing things down there. And I think that's probably, I probably knew you as a bartender before I knew you as.
That sounds about right. Yeah, probably. I do everything I can.
Right. And that's such Le Chat is such a great proving ground and great incubator for creatives in this community.
Definitely.
Chris does amazing works down there. And I believe that's probably where we first met. I know we've worked on a couple of movies together.
Yep.
One that's still in production. Actually, I think we're probably working on two. I think we worked two that are still in production.
Yeah. Or if you include mine.
Yes.
So then I guess, that you're going to be voice acting for. So
yes. That's right. Doing the voice in the room. Yeah. I know that you are a great actor. I've seen you on stage. And then I just seemed like you really got the bug for writing and then turning your writing into film.
Yeah. That's pretty much the actual stepping stone that it happened.
Step one.
Before like Le Chat or any of the local filmmakers I know, like the Wages of Sin guys or anything like that, I would tell my mom, like, I want to act, when I finally decided it after, because I was a psych major at Augusta State. A lot of people don't know. And I kind of got that weird, sneaking suspicion, that inner voice that was, you're doing the wrong thing. And I may have been a couple of 3-4 classes away from graduating.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. And I just stopped, went on like a mental walkabout, came back 2.5-3 years later, switched my major over to communications with the emphasis in theater. And I would run into most of my professors and I haven't seen you in classes. Oh yeah, I switched majors. I act now. And they're, what? But initially, before knowing anybody, because I didn't know any theater groups, and a long story short, my mother was she is the one who pressed me to go to Le Chat.
Really?
Yeah. Because, Mom, I want to act. She said, okay, cool. And she kind of helped me with the Jaye Starkes and everything, which is my stage name. She always called me Jay, and the Starkes was a stage name that she kind of helped me develop.
Okay.
We were going back and forth. And she would tell me to go do theater, and I would say, Mom, I want to go watch theater, a bunch of over dramatic acting to be, all that stuff.
Right.
And she forced me to go down to Lachette, and I think they were doing Glengarry Glen Ross, Death of a Salesman, that Chris Bailey had him to direct, and my mind was blown. I was like, oh, it's real acting. Oh, that's kind of cool. So
real acting.
That's how I got down. And then I think right after that, I auditioned for Quickies of that year. But before then, because I didn't know anybody, I wanted to practice. So I would go write little scripts. I still have my very first script as written in pencil on wide ruled paper and held together by paper clips because I didn't know the industry standard stuff and all that.
Right.
So I would just do that just to practice memorizing and then, trying to put on the show, essentially. Yeah. I don't have any home videos of it, but that was my way. But as you were saying, the writing kind of, I always have ideas in my head. So I would just write down a dream because I suffer from insomnia, a dream or something or an interaction that I've seen and tweak it and write that down. And then from there, that's when the directing kind of came about. The writing, not the biggest fan of because it's so tedious. It's so tedious. And I'm a bit anal retentive and I can never think I can get it down 100%. And to me, if you're the writer, then all that focus is on you and that writing, And I kind of like the collaboration effort of acting and directing because it relieves some of the pressure that I would normally put on myself because it's not just me as an actor. It's what the director's giving me or my co-stars. And the same thing with directing. You can direct a film or what have you. You could do everything by yourself. It's not, I don't believe it's going to be as good as if when you collaborate with other people that are just as good or better than you, So that was kind of the 1, 2, 3. But I guess my top 2 hyphenates, because the 2 I enjoy the most and I think come more naturally are the acting and the directing.
Okay.
Yeah. That was was that too long?
No, that was great. That was great. And I was going to ask because seeing as you did almost, get your degree in psychology, do you think that helps you make good choices as an actor?
I think so. It's
because if you understand the kind of the thought process, or at least have a educational kind of structural, like, oh, if this person is this would be this,
something like that. Yeah. I think you're correct. Where it's not only that, but just the fact psychology was one of the things one of the lanes I was going down because humans and the way they think, react, and why they do things interest me. And that's essentially, as an actor or director, especially, that's what you're doing. You get a role. Why does this person do this? What's their backstory? And that's what informs their decisions. So that jump was pretty natural. For over those 2-3 years that I was away, it was me working on being more of a showman, for lack of better terms, because most people don't believe it, but I would hate I didn't like talking in front of people. Book reports at the end of the school year, I would be a shaky mess, sweating profusely. It was bad. And I'm, for the most part, a pretty introverted person. So over those 3 years after, it didn't take that whole 3 years to decide I want to do an acting thing. In fact, if you're okay with me going into the stage name was Starkes. So my last name is Crops, which is already an interesting enough name because how many people, is it with 2 P's, by the way, but how many people know that? But one of the things when I was younger, one of my first films I remember watching was Death Becomes Her with Goldie Hawn, Bruce Willis, and
Meryl Streep, wasn't it?
Yeah, Meryl Streep. Right. That's crazy. So normally when I date people, I make sure they watch that movie. I'm like, oh, you want to know why I act? This is why. It's a fun movie, and I don't think it aged too badly. Like I watched it maybe 6 months ago, but that was one of my first movies I remember watching in the movie theater. And I was like, that's kind of cool. I kind of want to do that. But with society, my mother, luckily, always supported. So she's never been one of the people who, get something to fall back on, none of that business. But I guess society in general, you look at it and you're like, that might be hard to attain, especially being African-American, representation matters. So like, ooh, that's probably far off. So that was one of the first movies. And when I was on my hiatus trying to find myself or my destiny, my purpose, I would talk to my mom all the time. And around that time, that's when Iron Man came out.
Okay.
And Robert Downey Jr. has always been one of my favorite actors. I don't think there's many people that can do it as naturally as he can, aside from his, some of his decisions, personal decisions, which I'm happy he's kind of come over. But also with that being said, I don't think he will be the Robert Downey Jr. he is now. If not,
Right.
It's all about the journey. But something about that Iron Man character, because I've never been a big Iron Man character. When I was working at the movies when they came out, and I was like, Iron Man, oh, you mean, oh, the fake Batman? Because like both of them are rich. Oh, he got a robot. Batman is a badass. Oh, can I say the A word? Okay. Batman is a badass because he's learned all of this like martial arts, you know, and he self-taught a whole bunch of stuff. And like, you know, and like, oh, I built a machine that does everything for me. But it was something about his character, the Tony Stark character, which mirrored Robert Downey Jr.'s personal life, but also kind of mine, where he was at a crossroads, you know. So I could go to college and do this thing that's safer, that does intrigue me, but that's safer, or I could do something, you know, it was that turning moment.
Right.
And that kind of resonated with me. I was literally at Regal 20 sitting in the theater and it happened. I was like, whoa, you know, came home. I was like, I think I'm gonna use this, mother. So then she helped me put the E and the S just to make it a little bit different.
Right.
And she always called me Jay, but most people spell their name Jay. And you being an actor, you know, is about how do you stand out, you know? So she helped me put the E at the end of it. So, and then that E in the Starks between the K and the S kind of helped, you know, carry over. So normally it's Jay with the E or something like that. Oh, okay, cool. And hopefully it's more memorable because there's not a lot of people that spell their name like that.
Right.
So that's how that came about. So inspiration is kind of sort of everywhere, you know?
Yeah.
So that's my how I got my name, and then started after I figured that out. Oh man, how do I learn to talk in front of people, you know, without going crazy or shaking?
Now
you
that
know?
I have a name.
Yeah, you know.
Now I can say, I'm Jaye Starkes. So, and that's it. I got to figure out what else to say.
And then what else? Yeah. But one of those things, I used to work at the Regal Cinemas. I was a manager. I worked my way up to manager. And one of the cool things about working there is for that hiatus away from college, I forced myself to talk to strangers and just do things outside my comfort zone. So back then, and any young people listening, we actually watched movies on, you know, the real, I know, you know, but you know, the film, it was actual film.
Right. Before it was downloaded to the projector or whatever it is now. Yeah.
So, and that was why I worked there. I'm like, oh, I want to be in the movies. This is an awesome job. And I learned how to build movies the whole nine. But the worst part would be when a movie is playing and it gets destroyed. And if you ever watch, like anybody listening, when you see the movies and like everything rips apart, it is the scariest thing that's ever happened, because I've been privy to like movies that I've built and I'm watching it and it starts shredding. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm running upstairs. But that will happen often. Not all the time, but it will happen. And you have to be ready to go talk to 400 people that paid $15 a pop, you know, and you got to get in there quick and calm them down. So most times when it went down, they're like, we need somebody going there. Then I would do it occasionally. Then most times like, I got it. Get them to walk in, just go in there, just talk to them, you know, try to any questions or what have you. So that was part of my preparation during that time. And often if I'm on a date or out in public, if there's a song that I love that comes on, I'm probably going to kind of sort of sing it out loud or talk to a random stranger. All of those little things is what helped me to be able to finally go back to the school, change my degree and everything. Yeah.
What you mentioned a feature film that you're working on. So what is the feature film?
It's called Jon, Jon. It's a psychological thriller. I wrote it in 2017, based off of some random commercial or some random idea that happened. I saw something sparked that interest, and it was, what would happen if the world changed? You know, you woke up one moment and everything that you thought was true was, which I guess is kind of like the building blocks for a lot of films and stuff. But so I kind of took that idea, but then fused it with the parts of psychology that I like. So it's dealing with trauma and things, anxiety, and it's interjected with a lot of myself. A couple of friends of mine are like, is this kind of sort of you? I'm like, no.
This is autobiographical.
But weirdly, but I think it's one of those projects that hopefully touches on a bunch of different things. So it's talking about a guy who's about to become a father. So that stress, you know, of becoming a father or being committed in a long-term relationship, stuff that everyday people would do. And that's part of the reason why I named it John, almost like the John Doe, John Smith. So it's every man, every woman kind of deal. So, yeah. And hopefully I was initially planning on shooting it in September, but probably going to be pushing it back to January just to get more ducks in a row. Because I'm of the mind, like I said, I wrote it 2017, but I would prefer to do, and a lot of people are saying, just go out there and do it, and which is fine. But I think you get one opportunity to really impress somebody. It's like auditioning, you send in a self-tape, you get that one. It's not, send another one in and we'll work with you. No, you got one time,
Right.
So I would rather get it done correctly. And luckily, through my network, between the 12 films I've done and some of the stuff I've been doing recently, like working on features that have been coming here, I'm building my network of people that I'm able to call upon. And part of the waiting process is to try to raise money, because I want to pay people for their work, their talent. I could, of course, do it indie. I have a camera and all the stuff myself, but I think it will suffer, because being a director, and I've acted in the things that I've written, and directed, but you can't split 100%. There will always be, you can't concentrate on acting 100% or directing 100%. You have to switch one to the next. And I think that somewhat may cause a disservice to the project, which is why I'm not doing the lead character, even though I'm an actor, So yeah, that's why I'm pushing it, just to make sure it's as good as possible. So hopefully, like A24, that's my A24. That production company is my jam. So hopefully, we complete it, put into the film festival route, and then hopefully try to pick up distribution somewhere. Hopefully, so that's the big goal.
Right, right. So it's still in the formative stages then.
Yeah, pre-production. I have everybody casted except for like one of the roles. So that's kind of locked. I have most of the locations locked in. As a artist, beg, borrow, and,
right.
So I have a lot of that locked in. So right now, just waiting for the right opportunity, which is what I think we're going to do in January, just to elevate that professionalism and that production value, which is what I'm really looking for.
That's great. And you mentioned about stuff that's coming to the area here. What do you see for like Augusta? Really, like, what do you see for Augusta as, let's give two sides of it: the potential that Augusta has for film work, and then also what are some of the things that might be holding Augusta back?
The potential, I think, is huge because, as most people know, Georgia has the tax incentives. So a lot of work is going to Atlanta. Even if you're shooting a California story, a West Coast story,
right,
you're in Atlanta. Not all the time, but there's a lot of productions there. So Augusta, I think, has good potential because we're in that Georgia tax incentive, and it's an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Atlanta. So I think possibility is really big. What I think it needs is people who take it serious. Not saying there are people in Augusta that definitely take it serious, but for example, the features that I've been working on, thanks to networking and things of that nature, are typically in art department. But a lot of that comes from working at Lashat, where Chris, he would normally build sets, but I need to know everything. Like, wait, how do you build that? So a lot of times I would design my own sets, build my own sets with help, of course, but a lot of other people, a lot of directors can't say that locally, or actors or what. There's been plenty of shows that Chris or myself, we're acting in it and we're building our own set at the same time, and that's what's helped me. And of course, like now it's 10, 11 years that I've officially decided to go into this industry, that it's kind of blooming and showing fruition. So I think people need to just volunteer. First of all, there's been plenty of late nights, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sure you've been part of that for Les Mis, where you're volunteering and learning that, because number one, that's strengthening those bonds. So later on, when something comes around, then somebody, hey, I remember you helped me out. Let me help you out. But I think learning, to me, I have a couple of guys, newer people that didn't go to school for film, don't really do it, but they're interested in it. So I normally ask them, what are you interested in? So that way, my understanding and my thought is, if you have an appreciation and understanding for most of the segments, it makes you a better artist in general.
Right.
So I think that's what you should do. Go to your local, if you want to work in the art department, like I said, I've been working in the art department for the past 3 of them that's been here. So if you want to work in the art department, learn what it is to work in the art department, go to your local theater, Le Chat Noir, ACP, whatever it may be, and figure out, hey, can I volunteer to build your set so I can learn how to do it? And that in itself has helped me, because the Prisoner that we just worked on, I believe I've built 2 or 3 of my sets personally with the help of Chris and Antonio. You know, Antonio Scales, he's typically like an art director for a lot of my short films because they know how to do it. But there aren't a lot of people locally that can say, oh, I need this, let me go build it. Right. So I think that's, you actually have to put your money where your mouth is, invest your time into learning as much as you can about whatever area you want to go into.
Yeah, it's putting more arrows in your quiver too. Definitely. You know, so that when you're, you know, whatever comes across, it's like, you know, if the goal is to be an actor, great. But you look at, you know, Harrison Ford was a carpenter on set. That's how he got into acting.
Yeah,
he was not an actor.
That upsets me so.
He was a carpenter,
and you can see it in some of his early work. And
I don't mean to tout that as he's some amazing actor.
No, it's pretty badass. Yeah,
but you look at the arc of his career.
Yeah,
I mean,
based off of that.
Based off of that, he was, you know.
And see, once again, he's still, because there are a lot of people, like I would pull people into my short films, and even their understanding of what I assumed was the most basic film knowledge or terms they didn't understand. But to me, that's even worse now, because we're at a golden age of technology. It's YouTube, man. You can YouTube anything.
You can learn anything.
How do I build a set? You want to work in the art department? Google that. And it says, like, literally, you Google, how do I build a set for film? Boom. And they show you the, you know, and then you can apply that at your local theater. Or if there is a filmmaker that has the funds to build a set or wants to, that's how you do it. So I think there's very little room for excuses now at this point in time. It's decisive is what you want to do, and do as much of it as you can. Like, I'm always working on something, always. So
it's the action part, I think, a lot that trips up a lot of people. It's
exactly
like that. It's like you have the desire to do it, but you know, Kevin Hart says this is like, everybody wants to be famous. Nobody wants to put in the work.
I bought that shirt when he came to Augusta. That shirt resonated with me.
But I mean, it's serious.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be famous. No one wants to put in the work. I want to be an actor. I don't want to take any acting classes. I want to be a director. I don't want to know what a prime lens is.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't want to AD for somebody, or just follow somebody around, or pick their brain, or just work, or
be a PA.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
For anything like that.
And like you were saying, I mean, we're in Augusta, and for 6-7 weeks, numerous times, I've driven up and down to Atlanta just to go take acting class, for a 2-hour acting class. And how many people are willing to do that, aside from money? You know, if you don't have the money initially, build it up, but then do stuff locally until you get that opportunity to do it.
Well, you know, and that's the thing, that at least with the pandemic, it actually has even opened up more of those type of doors. You know, I had the opportunity to take some voice lessons from a Broadway actor in New York City because Broadway shut down.
Oh, okay.
You know, and so these actors, these performers, these singers are needing to try to pay their bills. So so a lot of them were offering, you know, acting classes, virtual acting classes, virtual singing lessons, things like that. So, I mean, it's like you said, Google
it's out there.
It's out there. Google it.
Do it. Yeah.
Find it.
Yeah. Or like you were saying, as far as acting, get on your local films, or more importantly, go audition for local. Like I said, in the very beginning of this conversation, my mother said, go to Le Chat. I'm like, no. And then look, you know, like you say, it's a proving ground. They have the quickies. That's, if you don't know if you can memorize a whole booklet, then go to quickies. It's 5-10 minute play. There's your sampling. Can I do this? Is this okay? Because that's what happened. I didn't finish that story, but when I got the students calling to act, introverted Jay went on stage at Augusta State, which I'm sure you've been on there. So they don't get as dark, you know, because Le Chat, we're pretty close. So you can't really see the audience, but it's a much bigger space. And I walk out, and I still remember the play was Edna's Diner. And I still need to get in contact with the director, because I would like to turn to a short film. But I walk out there not knowing what I was doing, never taking an acting class. And the coolest thing that happened was when I walked from the wings and I went on stage, and then I came back off stage. Like, I saw my mother and sister in the front row. I could still see him now. And I was like, and then after that, like completely blank. And when I got off stage from that, I was like, well, thank you, God. This is what I'm doing for the rest of my life. And then here we are. So audition for stuff. Like, try. You want to be an actor? Don't wait for something. Keep doing it. That's why I started writing and et cetera, et cetera. If I didn't start writing, I wouldn't be directing, which has helped me tremendously as an actor. Yeah. I think I would be way behind acting wise if I didn't direct anything.
And there's platforms that are available too. Like, we talk about Google search and stuff. You can Google monologues. You can record yourself performing a monologue, put it up on a YouTube channel.
Yep.
I mean, it's like if you can't find where you need to be, if you're looking for feedback, if you're looking to do whatever, there are people that'll critique you.
Yeah.
You got to grow thick skin.
Definitely.
That's one thing I had to learn because, I mean, I am a big guy. I understand that there are only a certain number of roles that my body type is going to fit in. No matter when you talk about, variety casting and this, that, and the other, there's literally, only a certain number of roles that my body type is going to fit in. But I still want to do the work. So I still audition. And I had to just decide, it's like, look, I'm going to do the audition. I'm going to do the best that I can. And I'm going to forget it afterwards. Yeah. And if I get it, great. If I don't want to be upset about it. And you have to learn how to take no.
Yeah.
You have to learn to be able to take that rejection or else you will give up.
Yeah. That's still something that I battle with. Like yesterday, I was kind of in the throes of like, man, what do I need to, what else do I need to do? I got off of a set for 8 hours. I think we did a project earlier that day. I went to the set for like 8 hours. I went and did something else. And I'm still at some times, you step back and like, well, have I moved? You might have inched. It's not as much space as you really want it to be, but you're still moving. And like you were saying, developing that thick skin and knowing that there's a lot of stuff out of your control, a lot. And like you were saying, body type or just look wise, I'm 5'5", so I'm short, African-American guy. Hollywood is changing it a little bit, as far as representation or whatever. But typically, I'm the best guy, the best friend, or something like that.
Right. That's me. I'm the funny neighbor or the best friend.
Yeah. And then you could break out of that, hopefully, eventually, to becoming a leading person. But don't be like, oh, I'm a leading man, and you don't have a lot of experience or what have you, because people will see you how they want to see you.
Right.
And I love that directing offered that to me because I can audition somebody. I'm like, man, that person is amazing. That person gave a 10, but I already cast this guy who gave me a 10. This girl or a guy gave me a 7, but the 7 works better with the other 10. You know what I mean? Whereas they were a better actor, gave a better performance, but chemistry or the way they looked or whatever. That's really helped me like, whoa, it's not just about me. I didn't do anything wrong.
It's not about me. You didn't necessarily do anything wrong. Yeah. It's just for the vision, the overall project just didn't work this time. Yeah. But that's the thing is that's when you still go back and you audition again because that if you made that impression on that director and they have a casting call again, they're like, oh, I hope Jaye auditions. Or can you get with his agent and make sure that he comes to this audition?
Exactly, yeah.
Or whatever. And because they'll remember. I have auditioned in front of the same casting director several times. And they remember me. We have a good rapport, but I've not got cast on any of their projects. Yeah. But it's not because of me necessarily. Exactly, it's just wasn't the right role. And when that role comes along, hopefully I'm there and I'm still putting in the work and I'm still auditioning and stuff. So yeah, that's you gotta keep going. Yeah. You can't give up on it.
Yeah. And even like I said, before I officially started acting, it was 2 years of me working silently on it. People didn't see me, doing it. My sister was like, you should go take this acting class. I'm like, give me a second. I'm working on some stuff. I gotta get my mental faculties prepared for this journey, especially because like I said, it's a 180. What I'm doing is a 180 of what I ever would expect it. I've acted on stage in my underwear, like literally my boxers. And hell, if you even asked me 5 years ago what I do, I'm like, no. But then that opportunity came up and the story was good, the character was good. And then next thing you know, here I am course, I was knocking out like, crunches, push-ups. No, not. Right before me and Antonio would be backstage, no matter if we had like a shirtless scene, not together, but whatever.
Right.
And we'd be, encouraging, all right, hey, don't forget, go out there, So, but still, I never would have imagined that I would have done that, So, got to keep working at it.
All right, Jay, this is the time in the show where we like to dive a little bit deeper.
Okay.
And we'd like to find out, what do you do to stay positive and to keep the dark at bay?
I think you really need to be true to yourself. Mm-hmm. Almost like I was talking in the first segment when I was a psych major, and just listening to your heart, soul, God, that inner voice, whatever it might be. If you hear something whispering, I think you should listen a little bit more intently, And that happens with a lot of stuff in our life, be it, a relationship or whatever. Listen to that voice and examine what's happening. And my voice was telling me, hey, psychology probably not the best thing. And just recently, I was working for a big corporate company who I should not name. But I found myself driving to work, because not only is a desk job and I'm already claustrophobic, so that doesn't help at all. And normally I'm always walking around, be it acting, directing, bartending or whatever. So I'm stuck at a cubicle staring at a computer where the human interaction you're getting is over a phone. And it's typically somebody cursing you the hell out for some shit you didn't do, Mm-hmm. And it got to a point, I was there for maybe 2.5, 3 years. It got to a point where I would drive to work and literally start crying. And I'm not like an overly emotional person. I'm not saying I'm a hardened criminal or anything, but I'm not, I'm not overly emotional, but it tripped me out. Like I would pull up and start crying, or I would answer the first phone call. And it wasn't necessarily, it could have been a good phone call, but then I would have to go to the restroom, eat 15 minutes into my shift. And I'm like crying nonstop. And I was having sleeping issues where I would wake up in the middle of the night. I already have insomnia in general, but that's typically when I do my creative stuff. So I'm writing or what have you. But I started listening, and the job paid pretty well. I'm not going to lie. But I eventually had to listen to my soul, and get out of that, because your mental health is important. Because I don't think people realize how adversely, like, your mental health will affect your physical health 100%, be it a heart attack or high blood pressure, or the way your posture, your face, whatever the case may be. So I had to get out of that situation. So I essentially just cold hard quit, and I'm a man of faith. I don't go to church every Sunday. Well, I mean, I guess kind of sort of I'm starting to, but with the project that I'm working on, but I do pray all the time. And I just started praying a little bit more. Same thing I did when I was trying to decide whether or not acting was the thing that I should do. So, or if prayer is not your thing, I still think you should listen to that inner voice. That inner voice for some people is God. That inner voice might be yourself, whatever it is. Listen to it. And if you're not feeling happy, you have to make some changes, and they might be tough. I didn't necessarily know. I was on Indeed, and I got a job to deliver pizza. So I'm working at a job where I'm getting, I don't know, $20 an hour or something like that. And I quit to go work at a job that's minimum wage at best, and was it scary? Yeah, but luckily found a way, had family and friends that helped me, that supported me through the roughish kind of times. I think it's evening out a little bit, but looking back, if I was at that corporate job, I wouldn't have been able to work at the art department for films, which is what I want to do. I wouldn't have been able to make the connections that I have made since this year. And for the most part, since almost mid-January, I've been luckily blessed to be busy working in that field. In fact, when I got the job at the school, I'm a special education parapro. And when I first got hired, I was like, hey, thank you for the job. can I start in 4 weeks because I got this film gig, and they're looking at me, like I'm crazy. But at the same time, if I work 4 weeks on this film gig, it's about 3, 4, 5 months of working here. This isn't what I want to do. This is what I want to do. And then they're like, sure. So I did that, and I came back, worked a week or two, and they're like, I need to leave another 3 weeks. So hopefully they have the understanding that this isn't going to be the career thing. But as long as I'm there, I'll work, So it's because that's just the type of person I am. But listen to yourself. And if you're not happy, you got to go. I was at that point. For anybody who knows me, there are a couple people that know already, but I was on antidepressants for the first time because of that job. And I started at the lowest, and then I had to go up. I think I went up once or twice, which is weird because the only thing I take daily are vitamins, and that's pretty much it, But even that still wasn't helping a whole lot. So then I started doing like a therapy, but because of COVID, you can do in-person therapy, which is how I would appreciate it. Like we're doing this in person,
right?
Because there's something to me that's a little different through a screen, even just for the simple trust thing,
Yeah, absolutely.
But so was doing the therapy stuff and antidepressants, was trying to pray, and the doctor, my MD, like, oh, try exercise. But I'm like, I do exercise, like they ain't helping. That's why I'm seeing you right now,
Right.
And I knew it was pretty bad when he first put me on there, because they give you this little questionnaire, and I don't know if it's a 1 to 10 or whatever, and they ask you, questions. How do you feel about blah blah blah? And while I'm filling it out, like crying, I'm like, oh, I got to make a change. So it's literally the best thing. And I'm not saying one of the cool things about it was my mother, always my biggest cheerleader. She sent me this thing about Steve Harvey called The Apollo Story. And it was how he initially didn't know about being short version, being a comic. When his friends dared him to go to a comedy club, he entered the competition, won the competition, went and quit his job the next day, supposedly. That's how the story goes. And of course, it took him 20 years to get to become Steve Harvey,
Right.
But in order to get better, she would send me stuff like that. So I would listen to that almost daily, or finding different, like Les Brown, these different motivational videos. And I've accumulated now YouTube daily motivational thing where almost every day while in the shower, I blasted it. And so now I'm off antidepressants. I haven't been on there for a couple of months, I think. So I started because I didn't want to be on there for a long time,
Right.
So, but that helps. And then, like I said, I personally pray, and then I just stay busy with what I'm doing. Sometimes to detriment, because I don't really get time to myself per se, which is probably useful for regenerating or what have you. But I also realize, like you said earlier, our time is limited. It's the one thing we can't get back. So normally, and I think we might have talked about this before, often in theater, it's called the post-show blues. That's what it's called. So, we're normally in groups, and I'm like, oh, I miss you guys, post-show blues. And I'm like, I don't know what that is, because normally as soon as I do a project,
else coming up.
I'm on to the next thing, because you only get one chance to do it. So I stay busy. That helps. And just trying to be true to yourself and recognizing people who have your back, and, trusting those people and relying on those people to help you. I was at that point in time calling my mother, and I'm 36, like almost every day, kind of, sort of. And she has her own stuff she's dealing with, and she would talk to me, or she would send me a text in the morning or a video or something like that. So it was a combination of all that stuff that really helped me through. And then more importantly, having faith that everything is supposed to work out the way it's supposed to, have faith and keep driving, try to be as good of a person as you can, et cetera, et cetera. So, and I think also having a vision. For the first time I did a vision board, because one of Steve Harvey's videos, like I've heard people doing, I'm like, oh, that's a waste of time kind of deal. Because I'm always working towards my visions, but still it was almost a changeover. Like, okay, I want that chapter to end and to be a completely newer Jay, a faith-based Jay kind of sort of, if that, even just faith in myself as well. So create a vision board, the whole nine. So that way I have that constant focus of what I'm supposed to be doing and where I'm supposed to be going. So that helps me personally.
Yeah. And I think, nobody has the same journey in life, like I said, we have the commonalities, we go through the same things, but nobody takes the same journey.
Yeah.
And no one's going to know you like you know you. And being able to put that stuff into a tangible, a vision board, that you can see that is a subtle or not so subtle reminder of what you're wanting to accomplish, and who you're wanting to become, who you're wanting to be, the things that you're wanting to do.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of solid evidence that as a motivator is really good for you as a person.
Yeah. Plus, I think us being artists, we have a leg up on that. A friend of mine, Carlton Clay, a local filmmaker, like 2020 was Black Lives Matter Part 2, essentially, which happened, in 2015. So seeing people of my complexion, being hurt and harmed and, almost thrown away, essentially, in a larger societal standpoint, of course, that's not every single person, but from a large standpoint, like society, then, it's almost, it's okay if, I don't know, this teenager was shot because he shoplifted at one point in time. And that's wild to me. But, so I had, and because of the depression, I didn't write I was still acting and directing, but I didn't write anything for the longest. And I was messaging him about something, and I was like, man, I'm getting so pissed, blah, blah, blah. It was the reactionary stuff to somebody being murdered. And instead of them focusing on that, they were focusing on something that doesn't matter, And he told me, he was like, just write it down. He was like, you're a writer, write it. And I was like, yeah, I guess so. So and from that's what the one that you're working on, the Prisoner White Torture, came from that. And another one that I wrote called The Story of Malik. So those two, because of 2020, I was able to write those two extremely personal films that I still haven't done either one. I was going to do Story of Malik, but because of COVID, I need access to school because he's a high schooler. So that kind of put a dampen on that. But as an artist, we have that luxury, that cool thing of, if you're an artist, use that to help you out, whether you do podcasts or talk about the things that are important to you, or like this segment, or if you're a writer, write something. If you're an actor, find those roles that speak to you, that help you with that cathartic moment or that release. So,
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, if you're not an artist, maybe find some sort of artistic outlet. Yeah. I mean, I took a pottery class, just because I something I've always wanted to do, but I found such a calmness in the process of throwing clay and having it on the wheel that I wouldn't have, you know what I mean? Yeah. And the stuff I came up with, I mean, it's like, I ain't gonna make no money off the stuff, but I can still look at that tangible thing and say, hey, I made that. Yeah. And I went through a process of learning and was able to focus on something other than the stuff that may have been weighing on me. Exactly.
And I think that's what art does. Normally, if I get drunk, I will always inevitably have a soapbox moment of talking about art, how important it is, because it just upsets me that it's relegated or tossed all to the side, in our capitalistic society where it's money, 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 money. And what I do like, though, is that millennials and people younger than myself or around my age or whatever, changing that dynamic, because, that old way of you go to school 8 to 5, which is training for you to work in a factory, is training for you to become just this other number that stamps the next thing. Mm-hmm. And art, like you were just saying, is one of the only things that I can think about, because there's so many different forms that help you it helps your soul, your character, your emotion. No, I don't think anything else does that. I had a friend of mine, she was going through some things. She started throwing paint, and it's like they just throw pools of paint and just watch it come to life. And now she has all these beautiful paintings. Now she can't stop doing it. And like, eventually you're not going to have space to do it. But that's what art does. It allows us to connect with other people, but also ourselves on a deeper level,
All right, Jay, this is the final segment here. It's time for the Fast Five. Fast Five. Fast Five.
Fast Five. I do want to say real quick before we go into it, I know we talked about this briefly, but I know Cookie, our mutual friend Jonathan Cook, recommended that you keep this. So I think anybody listening should definitely buy him a coffee and tell him keep this damn Fast Five, because this shit is hilarious to me. Like, in the best way, you know what I mean? And if you get on the podcast, join in some kind of way, you know. Fast Five.
Exactly. So the Fast Five is, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I always say I am working on a theme song, but, you know, I just, you know, we'll see what happens. But the Fast Five powered by Poddex. It's a great app. If you're not good at thinking fast on your feet and maybe you've got to, you know, present something, check out Poddex. You can, they're conversation starters. It's created for podcasters so you can continue conversations with folks. But I mean, anybody can use this as an app out. You can also get your physical decks. As a matter of fact, if you check out chewingthefatbr.com, and then there's a link on there for Poddex. If you use the code CHEW, you get 10% off your Poddex.
I just wanted to say I will be using that because I have 2 podcasts of my own, Talking Viewpoints, which is available on any listening platform. Mm-hmm. But awesome. I didn't know that because I don't use the Poddex, so I'll be using that for future episodes. So thank you.
Absolutely. That is a unpaid testimonial from Jay right there. I appreciate it. But here we are. It's time for the Fast Five. Just give me your first answer off the top of your head, whatever you think of. And I got some movie questions thrown in here too. Okay. Seeing as you're a filmmaker, but I'm not staying in that category. It's just going to be random. So let's hit our randomizer. Who is your favorite movie hero?
Hero. So as a character?
Who's your favorite movie hero? So the hero in the movie. It doesn't have to be like a superhero or anything, but who's your favorite movie hero?
Oh, man. Honestly, like, rarely enough, I don't know why, but the Bruce Willis character in Death Becomes Her. It just came first to mind. Because if you haven't seen it, he's kind of like, you know, like a little dorky, but he's still smart because he's a doctor.
Pencil pusher type of character.
Definitely a person, you know, you could shove him down. But what I like about his character is the transformation his character makes as he becomes more confident. I'm not going to spoil the movie, but he becomes more confident in his abilities as a doctor. But also he just stops letting people push him around, you know. So that transformation. I don't know his name, but yeah, I think that would be the first one.
Okay. I wouldn't have thought of him as a hero in a movie, but I mean, he was the hero of his own story for sure.
Yeah. So, what kind of hero did you mean? Saving people? Oh, okay.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine.
He was a hero to the patients that came to see him.
There you go. That's good. But and obviously, you just have a deep connection to that. That was your impetus. That movie was your impetus to become an actor. So I mean, there's no wrong answers. Let me also preface this. I've had people who like, I failed. I was like, you can't fail. It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. All right. Question number 2. Would you rather have piano lessons from Elton John or Billy Joel?
Ooh. I think I'm going to go Elton John.
Okay.
Which is funny because I actually tried to take piano lessons from somebody.
Elton John?
No, not from Elton. I wish, right? I would pay for that, definitely. But no, yeah, I tried to just because, man, that's one of those things that always impresses me. Like instrumentalists, people that could play instruments is amazing to me. But something about like his Elton John's keystrokes, I guess. Yeah, piano keystrokes. Like every time that Benny and the Jets come on, that dum, dum, I love that. It's so right. And you can feel like, I feel as though I can feel his aggression and tension from his fingertips going to the keys. So yeah, Elton John.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right. Question number 3. What's invisible, but you wish people could see?
Because like initially I was going to say like drive, you know, and that's probably the answer. I would probably go with that because
like your ambition, your drive.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Because as an actor, you know, oftentimes we work so hard behind the scenes, like you said, you see somebody moving like, oh yeah, they're just giving that role. But did you see countless number of hours or thousands of dollars that they've put into headshots and classes? Mm-hmm. So if that would help me get a role, it's like, oh, well, I mean, of course there's no like hard line, as far as, well, you put in your time, mm-hmm. but oftentimes, because I personally found when I've cast people that I will cast somebody that has a huge drive who may not be the best actor, mm-hmm. because that drive will help them overcome that. And they'll a lot of times become better than the person who's a good actor and knows it, because mm-hmm. they don't have the drive. I'm like, oh, I'm good. Yeah, this comes easy. But somebody who wants mm-hmm. to prove themselves, they'll put in 100%.
Yeah, I've definitely seen that in some like musical auditions and mm-hmm. stuff. You see those folks that come in and they just what's called marking. Mm-hmm. They're not really singing to mm-hmm. their full potential because they want to save their voice or whatever. It's like, no, this is your audition. This is your one shot. Go ahead, give it everything and give the best version of yourself in that audition.
Exactly, yeah.
So, yeah, that's good. That's good. All right, question number 4. Do you have any pre-show rituals or routines?
Oh, I do. Yeah. I've never been like the EIOU or the, mm-hmm. the trilling of the lips and tongue. I do normally always have a bottle of water, so I will gargle and just swish around, because I feel as though that does the same thing without me feeling as weird on my face. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And almost always there's this Kanye West song called Hell of a Life that I listen to all the time. That's in my queue. I have an actual inspiration playlist every time. And normally, like at Lashat, I have headphones in and I'm kind of sort of getting into that zone before I'm just quiet and just focus on the show. But Hell of a Life by Kanye West is on that playlist. And Kendrick Lamar's Backseat Freestyle. Backseat Freestyle is just, it depends on the show. That's one that really gets you amped up because it just like starts and keeps going. So those two are always in the playlist. So I normally listen to those before I get on board. And last but not least, normally for stage, at least when, curtain speech is being taken care of, I have a prayer that I say all the time, because my grandmother passed. So it's between my mother, my sister, my niece, and my grandmother. They're the strongest women in my life. So normally there's a prayer that incorporates them. Hey, God, give me the strength to keep on going. Thank you for the talent, the drive to go out and do this, and bless the show, and everybody else has put their, their energy into it. So always a prayer, literally up until the moment. Then it's like, okay, all right,
let's go.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. All right. Our final one. What brings you joy?
Being an artist, honestly. So pretty much almost even this podcast, because we're talking about art, I'm one of these people that I don't really care what kind of art it is. I will enjoy it. Like I was looking at this thing you have here. I don't know what that is, but that's badass. Like that's some cool shit to look at, And me, I was just in Atlanta at the High Museum, and we were going to see the Van Gogh experience, because that's pretty cool. By the way, it's awesome. So you haven't gone, you should go. I'm not getting paid by them. It is still that good. But while we were there, we went to the High Museum as well. And we walked in and they said, the Calder and I'm trying to think about that. Picasso just opened up that day, and we spent 3 hours in there, like looking at, because I didn't even know. What's crazy for those who don't know is like Calder was like almost the creator of mobiles, like that you hang over your little kids, baby carriage. And it's even seeing his progression of him starting out up until like they got bigger and heavier and crazier. But art, definitely, of any kind, it's one of those things that just fills you, with whether it's happy moments, sad moments, catharsism. Yeah. So art of all types, all kinds
brings you joy.
Yeah. Except for like, good on the artist who sold like that. Did you hear about the pedestal of blankness?
Oh, like yeah.
Like good on you. I mean, it upsets me a little bit because, like, like what? People are out here, and not just me. I'm not artist in that standpoint, but they're clay throwers or people out here creating actual stuff with their hands, and eyes, and you're just like, try to,
it's an invisible sculpture.
Yeah, I'm like, so not that kind of art, but like other than that, and it's one of the things that you can't really judge, because if you look at something like looking at that picture you have there, it's going to give people a certain vibe depending on who they are, know. So yeah.
Kind of like that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. It's like, art is completely subjective.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's going to affect everyone different, no matter what type of art it is, whether it's, like you said, if it's, paintings, graphic art, sculpture, theater, music, any of those things.
And it's inspiring. It inspires other people. I got into acting because of an actor, actors, Bruce Willis and Robert Downey Jr. It's going to inspire people to continue the path of art, no matter how much they try to like stamp it out, in schools and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's awesome. And that's it. That's our Fast Five. And that's the show. Oh, Jay.
Whoa!
I know that. Congratulations.
Sorry, I think I hit the microphone. I hit the microphone. My bad. Sorry.
That's it, Jay. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. You've got stuff in the works. If people want to keep up with you, what's the easiest way they can find you?
I am Jaye Starkes, JayeStarkes on any social media platform. That was one of the reasons I spelled it that way, so nobody else can have it. And I'm working on my website, www.jaystarkes.com. That'll have everything in there as well too. So yeah,
and I'll put links to all that in the show notes for Jay, so you can keep up with him, find out how John is progressing through its paces as you're getting ready to do your. I
do have a Vimeo, and I made my first vlog ever.
Okay,
so I plan to be uploading stuff on there as well too, on the journey to first feature kind of sort of. So yeah, that's
going to be awesome to watch that progress on that. So you can check out those links, like I said, in the show notes or on the website, chewingthefatbr.com. Again, Jaye Starkes, thank you so much for being on the show today. If you would like to support this podcast, you can buy me a coffee at the website, chewingthefatbr.com. Thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. We chew the fat.